There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
Let me drive. I will make a fool out of you.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy, lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up? Are you ready to make more money in 1 year than your father made in his whole life? Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
Oh, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing is important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Fine. Then let's race.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingram and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Jacques Villeneuve, you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Bruno Senna, you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Chris Hoy and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Landon Norris and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Trent Valley Kart Club here at PF International Circuit. Jake Sanson in the commentary box as we gear ourselves up ready for time qualifying, which is the next session out on track here for the 2019 season finale of the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series. We've been racing the first weekend of every month since January, and it's been a very busy Winter Series. We've had plenty of racing action, and it's all come down to this, the season finale. In each of our 10 classes, there is a showdown for the title, although there is an 11th class this weekend as we welcome back the TKM Extremes to the fray. It is going to be a very exciting battle for each of the competitions here this afternoon as we gear into timed qualifying for each of our categories. The warm-up sessions just concluding now as the final timed practice sessions wrap up. It's already been a very exciting day at the office. Lots of drivers pushing the limits. There have been already some Winter Series 2019 records broken for practice sessions. There has been a new fast lap set in the practice for the IAMI Cadet, Honda Cadet, Mini X30 and Junior Max practice laps. It's not the fastest laps we've had all season, mark you, in those classes, but certainly fastest from free practice. And interestingly, in IAMI Cadet, it is the same lap to the 100th of a second that's been set as the new record for practice in IAMI Cadet, as has been set in qualifying this season of a 108.35 by Aidan Neat, who now has the practice and qualifying records for IAMI Cadet for this Winter Series, although the fastest lap still comes from race trim, and that is Nathan Tye. A new practice record too for Sonny Smith in Honda Cadet, who did a 108.62 earlier. That's faster than anyone has gone in a practice session this season. Same for Theo Makuris in Mini X30. He did a 60.07, very nearly under the 60-second barrier. And in Junior Max, Matty Hingley pulled a 59.17 earlier on today as well. That's a new practice record from Junior Rotax. Other than that, you haven't missed a massive amount over the course of proceedings. A couple of incidents earlier on. Other than that, it is going to be a very exciting qualifying session that will progress us as we go for the rest of the afternoon in timed qualifying. It is going to be quite tight, and of course with 10 titles going down to the wire, it's all going to be about pole position. So we will talk you through the action with Junior X30 time qualifying about to start the final practice session. As you can probably hear in the background if you're listening at home to Downforce Radio, hello to you if you are. That is going to be coming to a closure. And just for the record, it is the first time, of course, that TKM Extreme have run a practice session at the Winter Series here in 2019. For Trent Valley Kart Club, the rest of the time there has not been a TKM Extreme class run. And for the record, it looks as though it's going to be Harry Moore that will wrap up the fastest practice time. If you are wanting to watch along on live timing, you can, of course, head to the taghoyer-timing.co.uk website the whole website, I should say, is taghoyer-timing.co.uk/tvkc-live-timing.html. So you can watch it along at home, as well as listening to the coverage if you are wherever you are around the world listening in to the Trent Valley Kart Club's Winter Series conclusion, but the checkered flag is up on the gantry, and it is going to be a finish to practice. And in TKM Extreme, the fastest man of this Winter Series campaign in time practice, by virtue of the fact that this is their one and only free practice session they will set this season as we're at the final round, is going to go the way of Harry Moore, who has done a 60.71 second lap, and nobody's going to be able to go faster than that. Interestingly, Sam Fowler not setting a time in free practice, and it looks to me as though Adam Sparrow has not completed his final lap, and that is why he is parked up on the far side of the course, having pulled off in this final practice session. So Harry Moore will be the course record holder then of this particular class in this particular series. A 60 seconds dead, 0.71. And so Harry Moore is now the fastest man thus far in TKM Extreme for the entire 2019 season. And that, of course, reflects the fact that we are only going to have the one sole session for TKM Extreme over the course of this weekend. So we're going to get ourselves into the action once again now, and it will be for timed qualifying, and it will be Junior X30 that will come out on circuit first. Now, it's going to be an interesting showdown in Junior X30 for the 2019 season finale here at the TVKC Winter Series. It is just 9 points, my apologies, that separate Alessandro Serenetti and Tom Edgar, with Serenetti on 168 points to Tom Edgar's 159, and that means going into the finale tomorrow, the final is the race that scores points in the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series, of course, which means that effectively tomorrow Tom Edgar should be winning the race if he possibly can, but to sew up the title, Alessandro Serenetti would need P6 or better to seal the deal. That's what's on the line here in Junior X30. A massive grid, of course, for the X30 classes, as we are just one weekend away from the season opener for Motorsport UK's British Kart Championships. And that is obviously going to be at this very circuit as well. So a lot of the X30 classes for IARMY Cadet, for Mini, Junior and Senior X30 are all here training for that first race of the British Championship next week. So there's going to be a lot of faces perhaps that you wouldn't have seen in the previous 3 rounds, but there's a lot of drivers who want to put in a good show in this season finale. None the least, of course, are the championship contenders. The time qualifying group for Junior X30 is now split into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, and in this first group it is going to be Daniel Amazigo, Carly Atkins, Chris Harnan, the Dutchman, Oliver Duffel, Tom Levin, Charlie Thompson, Reese Newburn, Kyle Dunford, Harry Cottrell, Caden McQueen, Max Anderson, Viti Valen, Ben Jenkins, Tom Edgar, Sam Heading, Oscar Joyce, Freddie Spindlow, Max Mear, Harvey Ryby, Matthew Bonnet, Rashan Chigarimbo, Daniel Butterworth, Jude Fernihow, Zach Meakin, Luke Barham, Ivan Lomliev and Harvey Charter that will take to the circuit in this first time group. So thus far, there's only been 6 of them to actually go out on circuit. That's Thompson, Newburn, McQueen, Anderson, Jenkins and Fernihow. And now it looks as though the rest of them are going to make their way out, led out by the 49 of Viti Whalen, who has travelled here all the way from Finland to compete. One of the big names from the European scene, actually, that's decided to come across for this final round of the Winter Series is the Dutchman Chris Harnan, who is absolutely committed and dedicating to try and win the British Championships in 2019. So using this weekend as a testing platform, as many of the other drivers are, of course, as well. But they now all file their way out onto the circuit. And for the record, the first one who is setting a flying lap is the 112 of Jude Fernihow. Caden McQueen going faster on his first flying lap around the circuit. Now, the qualifying record for Junior X30 is that of Oliver Behrmans from earlier in the season, back in January, a 58.07 for Oliver Behrman. So let's see if anybody is going to be able to go faster than that. We've already had 4 course records beaten over the course of the first few weeks. So let's see over the first practice sessions earlier on. So the practice times have come down from what we saw in January. So let's see if we're going to get a little bit more from them over the course of proceedings. It is going to be quite interesting how things will progress. But obviously we want to make sure that all of the drivers are going to get the best possible times out of the procedure. So let's see how it all shapes up. We are going to get some really exciting battles from the drivers over the course of the timed session, but we're waiting for those first timed laps to come in. Jude Fernahau's first flying lap is 62.52. So obviously that is going to be the sort of level we want to keep the drivers at if we possibly can. So Caden McQueen has gone fastest of all now, though, at 61.68. And that is a good second still away, well, second and a half away from the qualifying record of Oliver Behrman's 58.07. How things have shaped up so far in Junior X30, I should say, which is the class that we're on. Well, in terms of pole positions, it's been 3 different drivers who have had a pole position over the course of the season. Will Murdoch, Oliver Behrman, and Harvey Charter was the other one who did last time out. So let's see if anybody is going to become the 4th driver to take a pole position, or will it be one of those 3 to get on the top spot once again? Carly Atkins gets the first lap time in a 59.83. So obviously there is going to be a bit of a tumbling down of the times. A 58.07 is the fastest ever qualifying lap in this winter series. A 59.65 now, though, from McQueen, just a whisker in front of Rashan Chigarimbo. Then it's Edgar, Meakin and Butterworth from Leben, Atkins, Lomliev, Duffel, Chris Harnan rounding out the top 10 from Fernahau, Cottrell and Spindlow. And that, of course, is just from this group. There are 2 groups for Junior X30 this weekend, so they're all trying to be on the top spot, but it's going to be a few minutes now before we really understand who's going to be the ultimate pole position, because we have to have this group and then the one that follows afterwards over the line. A good lap there from Viti Whalen, the Finn, as he goes into the top 10 provisionally, and now the field is jostling once again. Carly Atkins, there's a 59.21 from Daniel Amazigo on the BMR chassis. Daniel Amazigo, the new member of the team. Zach Meakin goes fastest of all now for Fusion. And now up to 3rd comes Daniel Butterworth. Lots of drivers bidding for 2nd place. Edgar goes 2nd. Now Duffel goes 2nd. Now Lomliev gets up into that 2nd place spot, setting exactly the same time to the 100th of a second as Zach Meakin, a 58.87. Lomliev only 2nd by virtue of the fact that he set that lap after Zach Meakin. Spindlow now 3rd, 200ths of a second back. Duffel is 600ths back from pole. Edgar is 800ths back from pole. So not even a 10th of a second covering the top 5 in this group of Junior X30. Then it's Tom Leben from Rashan Chigarimbo, Caden McQueen, Carly Atkins, Max Meir. Then it is Dan Butterworth, and then Harvey Charter, Chris Harnan, Jude Vernahau, Daniel Amazigo, Sam Heading, Harvey Ryby and Luke Barham. They come through once again. Viti Valen gets himself back up the order. Sam Heading goes fastest. 58.83 now. We're into the last minute of this group of time qualifying. So not a bad run there at all from Sam Heading. Not the fastest of all across the 3 sectors, but definitely quick. Zach Meakin, though, fastest of all in the 3rd sector, and that pushes into 1st with a 58.66. Now Edgar goes fastest. Edgar goes fastest on a 58.57. 200ths quicker now than Lomliev. Chigarimbo to 3rd, but McQueen goes faster. McQueen on a 58.61. Still less than a 10th of a second covering the top 5, which is now Edgar, Lomliev, McQueen, Chigarimbo and Meakin. So Edgar looking good for provisional pole position if he holds this together over the last half minute of the session. The checkered flag is not far away as the drivers are battling that way for that last extra little bit in the sectors. But Tom Edgar, fastest of all at present from Ivan Lomliev and Caden McQueen. But it is going to be so tight at that top end as the drivers will come through. The checkered flag will wait this time. A handful of them will go round for another lap. But the checkered flag flies now. And the first one across the line is going to be one of the Fusions. I think that is Zach Meakin. It is. And Meakin goes fastest. A 58.51. Can anybody beat that? Meakin's come through on a 58.51. Yes, 2 of that. That's Leben and Edgar. So Tom Leben goes fastest of all for the MLR team. So Tom Leben for Mark Litchfield Racing has gone to the top spot. A 58.34. That might not be beaten across the 2 classes. Across the 2 groups, I should say. Tom Edgar's gone to 2nd. 300ths of a second back. Then it's Freddie Spindlow for KR Sport. Oliver Duffel of Mick Barrett Racing. And Zach Meakin remains in the top 5 for Fusion. A few of the other drivers are still running around together in formation as they come round the final sector of the course. So there may be a change, particularly for Sam Heading, who was provisionally in pole position. He's in this group of 4 as they come over the line this time by. Is there going to be one final change moving up the order? No, it remains as was in the top 10. Although Amazigo and Oscar Joyce have moved up the order in their final lap, but outside the top 10. So for the moment, it's Tom Leben for Mark Litchfield Racing, who goes fastest of all on a 58.34. Tom Edgar in 2nd place. from Freddie Spindlow third, Oliver Duffel fourth, and Zach Meakin in fifth, in front of Lomliev, Chigarimbo, Caden McQueen, Sam Heading, and rounding out the top 10, 0.4 of a second away from pole position thus far is Chris Harnan. Then it's Dan Butterworth ahead of Harvey Charter from Carly Atkins and Max Meyer, Daniel Amazigo and Oscar Joyce, Luke Barham and Jude Fernahau. And that is your order at the end of that first qualifying session. We move straight in with the second group, of course. We had some delays from the practice sessions earlier, and that means that we are now obviously trying to gain back some of that time that we originally lost. And that means we go straight into the second time qualifying group. Now, it's all up to the drivers in this second group to see if they can go faster than Tom Leben, who is now provisional pole position from this group. And the drivers who will do so are the championship leader, Alessandro Seranetti, and then Kasper Skuza from Marcus Littlewood, Aaron Walker, Sam Shaw, Darrell Taylor, Christopher Bingham, Georgie Dimitrov, Finley Dunn, Tyler Reed, JP Sleater, Finn McKee, James Walker, Scott Sumpton, Oliver Gray, Reggie Dewey, Josh Torpey, Aaron J. Walker, Blake Anglis, Oliver Behrman, Archie Walker, Will Murdoch, Jamie Mead, Lucas Ellingham, Charlie Rippon and Charlotte Gaskin. And so far as the green flag has flown on the top of the gantry, only two of them have gone out, namely Chris Bingham and Charlotte Gaskin. Those two have decided to go out first. Now out onto the circuit comes Blake Anglis, the privateer. As the drivers continue to wait for their moment. You tend to see this a lot more now at this stage of the season. It used to be just the seniors that would wait for their moment to go out and preserve the tyres, but now the juniors have started doing it too. So we'll wait for a few more drivers to make their way out on circuit. You've only got 6 minutes for qualifying, as out onto the circuit goes Finley Dunn for SFR Motorsport on the RS kart. It's going to be interesting to see how well he goes. Unfortunately, one of the drivers from the Junior X30 group is not going to be continuing on for the remainder of the weekend, and that is Jacob McComb, who picked up an injury yesterday. Not a bad one, but certainly enough that will keep him off the karts this weekend, as their focus is, of course, trying to make sure he is ready and prepared for the 2019 season opener of the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships at Junior X30 level, and we wish him all the very best in his recovery over the next few days. A frustrated spectator, but the good thing is a safe one. So the drivers are out on circuit, getting those fast laps in for Group B. Now, the time to beat, as we know, is obviously going to be that of Tom Lebens. So Blake Anglis is pushing for it as the drivers are trying to get that fast time in. A 58.34, I believe it was, for the time just set in the provisional pole position qualifying session from Junior X30. We have confirmation. 58.34 from Tom Leben is the time to beat. So now it's all going to be about how the drivers go in this session. Marcus Littlewood, fastest of all at the moment on a 106.3. A 103.03, though, for Reggie Dewey, who blasts around the circuit in the RS kart. As the drivers are now all on circuit, they are just getting their first laps dialed in. We're not going to see their first representative qualifying time until the next time around, as it were, because a pole position time is going to be in the 58-second mark. We know that for a fact, because it's either going to remain with Tom Leben on a 58.34, or it's going to fall to one of the 26 drivers in this qualifying group. Blake Anglis goes to the top provisionally, 61.25. Still just under 3 seconds to find before they get to pole position. So the drivers still putting in those lap times, trying to get the most out of the karts as they push themselves into each sector. They want to get the ultimate best time. Oliver Gray, fastest of all in the first sector at the moment, a 20.91 from this group. And Reggie Dewey, an 18.69, is up to the first position goes Marcus Littlewood. Still time to find, though. Up to the top goes Reggie Dewey, though, 59.38. Now we're getting somewhere. So Reggie Dewey is starting to make the progress as he flies his way around the circuit up at the sharp end. So Reggie Dewey out for pole position. This is the man who here, back in September, famously ran all 3 junior classes for TKM, Rotax and IAMI in the season finale of the British Kart Championships last year, and has settled in to his new berth at Junior X30 rather well. And he's running with his stablemate, as it were, in the RS kart fold. Reggie Dewey running around there with the SFR Motorsport driver Finley Dunn as they run together out on the circuit. The RS kart, one of the most dramatic new appearances in not just British karting, but in the world of European karting as well. But there are still those familiar faces at the top, as Will Murdoch has gone fastest now, 59.36. There goes Littlewood, Spirit of Senna, 59.92. Over the line go the two RS karts, and it's Reggie Dewey who goes to the top with a personal best and a best of all in sectors 2 and 3. Reggie Dewey first in front of Oliver Behrman, who's now come up to second place. Up to second now goes Oliver Gray, Oliver Behrman, and then Aaron J. Walker, not to be confused with the other Aaron Walker, who is in the other group, of course. Then Reggie Dewey, Oliver Gray, and Georgi Dimitrov now in third place. That's your top three at the moment, with a 58.71, the time to beat. That's definitely going to come down in the next minute and 20 seconds or so as drivers continue to find a little bit more speed. But will it be enough to get close to the time of Tom Leben, or is he about to become the fourth different driver of this Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series 2019 to grab a Junior X30 pole position from time qualifying? We will find out shortly, because we're into the last minute of the session. Littlewood goes back into the top 10. 8th place on a 59.46. Dewey improves his best time, 58.64. That's the new personal best of this group. But there's still time to go. Over the line, Lucas Ellingham, Darrell Taylor, Oliver Behrman and Casper Skuza all make improvements, as does Oliver Gray on a 58.77, now in second place. Murdoch up to 4th, Reed 5th, James Walker in 6th place for Coles. Then Ellingham 7th for Sam Shaw in 8th place from Darrell Taylor, and taking it nice and easy, Alessandro Senanetti, half a second away from Dewey, but in 10th place and still looking good for the title if he can hang on in there. So now we're into the final few seconds of the session. Tom Leben's time of a 58.34, still very much on the mindset of all of the drivers in this race. They want to push for the top spot. Reggie Dewey trying to maximise the very last inch out of his car to try and get a faster time, but he's not as fast in the second sector. I'm not sure he's going to be able to beat it. It could go the way of Will Murdoch, fastest of all in the first sector. Across the line goes Reggie Dewey, and he has got one more lap to go. So he is going to get one more lap in, and he's done a 58.58. But that's not enough to get the pole position time, as Oliver Behrman does a 58.46. Oliver Behrman goes fastest as they cross the line to take the checkered flag. Murdoch's done a 58.39. That's literally half a tenth of a second away from Leben, and 200ths off Edgar's time from the previous session as well. Only really Reggie Dewey from the top 10 is still pounding around, getting a lap in. Marcus Littlewood trying to break his way back into the top 10 as Blake Anglis goes 15th over the line. It's going to be quite tight, but there's half a tenth of a second between Reggie Dewey, still on track, trying to get the last out of his car, and the time set by Tom Leben. But Will Murdoch has gone fastest of all in this time qualifying group for the moment, as out of the final turn go Littlewood and Finley Dunn. No, it is Reggie Dewey, my apologies, and Dewey stays 4th place. He can't improve, so it's Will Murdoch who goes fastest in this time group, and it means that Tom Leben is pole position here this weekend in Junior X30. So Tom Leben becomes the 4th different driver in this X30 2019 Winter Series campaign to bag a pole position, and that just shows you how competitive it is in this category. 4 different weekends, and now 4 different pole sitters. Oliver Behrman, Harvey Charter, Will Murdoch, and now in first position for qualifying, it's Tom Leben for Bury St Edmunds for the Mark Litchfield Racing Team. Great work from everybody there. So overall top 10 then, it's going to be Leben, Edgar, Murdoch, then Spindlow in 4th from Behrman, Dimitrov, Dewey, and Oliver Duffel. And then I think just after, it's going to be Oliver Gray and Tyler Reed. But we'll get final confirmation of that later as we now move into the IAMI Cadet timed qualifying battle. Now again, this is going to be an interesting challenge for pole position, because we've had some very exciting runs in pole position in time qualifying so far. One man has been the king of qualifying thus far with 2 pole positions out of 3. And that is Aidan Neat, who is not only the fastest man from time qualifying this year, he's also the fastest practice runner as well, with exactly the same lap time, which he matched in the time-free practice session earlier today. So that suggests IAMI Cadet could find a little bit more extra time over the course of this session. They might go faster still, but it's all about the championship battle in IAMI Cadet, and it is a very close one indeed. 8 points separating, 12 points, my apologies, separating Kia Nakamura-Berta and Sonny Smith in the championship fight after a very close battle last time out at round 3. And that means, of course, that essentially the only way that Kian Nakamura-Berta will lose the championship is if Sonny Smith takes the victory and Nakamura-Berta finishes 10th or lower. P9 will be enough to seal the title for Kian Nakamura-Berta, and that's going to be his game plan for this weekend. However, pole position could well go the way of Aidan Neate. It's happened 2 out of 3 times already. The man who denied him on the 3rd occasion was Sonny Smith. So, Group A is out on circuit, made up of Aidan Neate, Will Knight, George Robinson, Sam Lewis, Sky Parker and Ella Stevens, Finn McLaughlin and Jack Mowat, from Lewis Bird and Michael Gray, Oliver Phillips and Will Antrobus, Ryan Ward, Taylor Orridge, Joe Katzentonis and Cian Geraghty, Cole Glover and William Goh, Cathal Clark, Mason Bishop, Freddie Allen, Callum Graffin, Edison Purcell, Sonny Smith, Fraser Anderson and Lewis Werrell. So that's going to be the timed group for this first run of drivers in Miami Cadet. Very close it is indeed in this category. Plenty of great racing talents, and some of whom are obviously bidding for a run at the British Championships, which kick off next week for the X30 categories and the Miami categories, of course. So Miami Cadet will be one of the hallmark categories of that season beginning a week from now. But Trent Valley Kart Club will obviously be hands-on for that weekend as well. But this is going to be a very interesting qualifying session. 4 minutes plus the extra few seconds on the clock. But it is going to be quite tight at the top. For the record, the first time lap is that of Oliver Phillips's, and he is on a 1:10.64, although that time is definitely going to come down. The fastest qualifying lap of the entire Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series 2019. It belongs to Aidan Neate, who has done a best time of a 1:08.35, which is identical to the 100th of a second to the time he set in practice this morning. So potentially there is an opportunity for the times to change and for a new fastest run. But Sonny Smith has done a 69.74, a 1:09.74. That's not far away from the fastest time we've had, which is a 1:08.35. Fastest lap of the entire season, though, well, that belongs to Nathan Tye, who is out in the second group, which he set in the first weekend of the season. In the final, I think it was, he set that fastest lap. So the drivers are pounding around, trying to get those fast laps in. Obviously, all eyes are on Aidan Neate. So far, it is Sonny Smith of Oliver Rowland Motorsport from Aidan Neate at the top of the timesheets. Ironic that, because on the track, Neate is actually ahead of Sonny Smith and tucked up behind the 98 of Lewis Werrell. So it's Smith, Neate, Orridge, Knight, Purcell, Werrell, Clark, McLaughlin and Gray in front of Ella Stevens in this group. Now you're probably thinking, well, I heard the name Will Knight. Well, what's happened to Zach? Well, after an incident in last week's IKR Gold Cup at Rowra, he hurt his hand, unfortunately, so he's resting easy in the hope that he can be back in time for his British Championship campaign, and of course he's leading Super 1 as well, so an interesting season he's having. But Sonny Smith leads the way. Aidan Neate in second, Lewis Werrell third, from Finn McLaughlin and Cathal Clark as they come over the line. Now we're getting some competitive times, a 1:09.22, 400s in front of Aidan Neate, and then Lewis Werrell and Finn McLaughlin, Cathal Clark and Ella Stevens, Edison Purcell and Taylor Orridge in front of Michael Gray, and Will Knight in 10th position. So some good laps from these 2 or 3 chaps at the front end of the field. Sonny Smith, though, a 1:09.22. That's the new fastest from this session. But there's still time to find, and they all know that they need to find it now. Otherwise, they will have to start lower down the order than they would like to be. So Sonny Smith leading the charge at the moment on a 1:09.22 in front of Aidan Neate. So a really exciting battle, and hopefully there's going to be a lot more where this came from. But Smith, Neate, Werrell, McLaughlin, Cathal Clark and Ella Stevens is the top 6 at the moment. Much more pace to come from this session, but some good performances there in that top 6. This is only the first group of the 2, of course, but a really good run. They come down the straight once again. How much of a gain? Neate goes fastest. Smith beats him, a 1:08.83. So we're getting much closer to that mark. Smith in first, Neate in second, from Cathal Clark and Finn McLaughlin. Lewis Werrell is now 5th in front of Will Knight. Good improvement from Will. Then Edison Purcell up to 7th place in front of Taylor Orridge, Cian Geraghty and Ella Stevens. Then we've got Michael Gray and Mason Bishop in the top 6 rows as well, from Callum Graffin and Joe Katzentonis. Then Lewis Bird and William Goh, Cole Glover and George Robinson, Ryan Ward and Sam Lewis. Then Sky Parker, Will Antrobus, Oliver Phillips, Jack Mowat, Fraser Anderson and Freddie Allen. That's just the first group, of course. There is another group to go after this one. But Sonny Smith looking good for pole position at the moment. The first batch of drivers should just cross the line with another lap in hand. It's going to be tight to see which drivers will not get another lap in and which will. But certainly the leading group is going to get another qualifying lap in, and that's going to be the crucial group of drivers that will bid for ultimate pole position. Oh, and there's a spin in the middle of the circuit there that looks to me, well, it's definitely one of the Fusion karts. Couldn't quite make out who that was. I think, well, the checkered flag is about to come down. It does come down now. Cathal Clark takes it and is the first one over the line to do so. So the spinner, I think, might have been, just trying to double check who it was, because we've got a handful of drivers who are going to take another qualifying lap in. There's one at the back who sadly will not from this session after the spin. I think it's William Go who had the spin, the Filipino driver. And yes, indeed, William Go comes across the line having not had the greatest of laps there after his spin in the mid-section. But the likes of Smith, Werrell, Neat, McLaughlin, Purcell and Orridge, those 6 can all continue on another flying lap, and they are all doing so. It is currently Smith from Werrell and then Neat in third position, because the time has come down and Lewis Werrell has actually beaten Aidan Neat's mark. Cathal Clark is currently looking at 4th position in the timesheets, but then Finn McLaughlin is still out there. Will Knight has crossed the checkered flag in 6th. Purcell's still going. Gray has crossed the checkered flag. Taylor Orridge is still going, and Ellis Stevens is going to be at best 10th position. So let's see what happens as these leaders come across the line. Who's going to get pole position? It's going to go the way of Sonny Smith. Sonny Smith's just going to get to the top. Sonny Smith on a 1:08.83, 600ths of a second faster than Aidan Neat, and that means that it's 2 apiece from qualifying then. Sonny Smith has 2 pole positions, so does Aidan Neat. They're absolutely dead level in terms of their qualifying prowess. Aidan Neat second from Lewis Werrell, Cathal Clark, Finn McLaughlin, Will Knight and Edison Purcell. So Aidan Neat is not going to get his 3rd pole position of the season, but is Sonny Smith going to get his 2nd? So far, the answer is yes, but we've got to see what happens in Group B, because there could well be a 3rd different pole position sitter from this season. So far, Sonny Smith in pole from Aidan Neat, Lewis Werrell, Cathal Clark and Finn McLaughlin, then Will Knight and Edison Purcell, Taylor Orridge and Michael Gray, and rounding out the 10 from this group is Ellis Stevens, then Geraghty, Bird, Katzentonis, Bishop, Graffin, Sky Parker doing well in front of Sam Lewis and William Go, Cole Glover and George Robinson, Ryan Ward and Oliver Phillips, from Will Antrobus, Jack Mowat, Freddie Allum and Fraser Anderson. 3.5 seconds from the front of the grid to the back, and that's only Group A. We still have Group B to come. The green flags fly, and out onto the circuit will come the 2nd group. Can they beat Sonny Smith's mark of a 1:08.83? The drivers who will debate that are Maximus Hall, Vinnie Phillips, Brandon Carr, Harley Keeble, Mason Rudman, Alex O'Grady, George Edgar, Jack Cunningham, Ashton Hodgson, Ethan Jeff Hall, Finn Leslie, Alfie Slater, Leo Robinson, Hadi Mamassi, Archie Clark, Nathan Tye, Micah Taylor, Charlie Hart, Ted Bradbury, Joe Anderson, Joe Rippin, Macaulay Bishop, Harry Jr. Burgoyne, Sebastian Mins, Leith Kahn, Oscar Cartmail, Ben Folland, Gabe Fairbrother, and if he makes his way out onto the circuit, Kian Nakamura-Berta. So it's an interesting one, but so far it looks to me as though the 51, Kian Nakamura-Berta, is the only one, according to the timing screen, that has not gone out on circuit. Now that's interesting. I wonder if that's tactical or if they've got a problem, because the rest of the field have all gone out on circuit. Kian Nakamura-Berta may be waiting a lap just to get a slightly fresher tyre onto the circuit. Now it looks as though we've had a bit of a warning go out for the 46, I want to say. Is it 46? No, it's 48. My apologies. That is Micah Taylor. So obviously must have done a bit of weaving out on the circuit to have given himself a warning this early on in the session. Well, Kian Nakamura-Berta is out there. My apologies. It's a transponder issue. So Kian Nakamura-Berta is actually out on circuit. And that is very good news, because obviously, as the championship leader coming into this one, he would want to be out there. But for some reason, there was a slight issue in terms of them coming up on my timing screen. But they are out on circuit now, with 4 minutes and 15 left on the clock. And that is going to be what separates us from finding out if Sonny Smith will start from pole position tomorrow, having set the fastest time in his group But this is a whole other group. Kia Nakamura Berto has gone straight to the front of the queue in front of Vinnie Phillips. And there's a yellow flag. There was a spin at the first hairpin after the bridge. Not sure who that was that had a spin, but they have all got going again. And I could tell you that it was 2 or 3 drivers involved in that one, namely Joe Rippin. And then we had Sebastian Mins, Leif Khan and Oscar Cartmail all taking avoiding action. The man who spun was actually Ethan Jeff Hall, but he has got going again. Well, we have a slight issue with our timing screen. Not entirely sure what the cause of it is, but we will get it back and running very soon. There we go. Times have come back. Just as we thought it would, it has done. Harry Junior Burgoyne, fastest at the moment, on a 109.80. And then it is Vinnie Phillips, who is there in second position in front of Kian Nakamura Berta, Macaulay Bishop, Ashton Hodgson, Harley Keeble and Alex O'Grady from Maximus Hall, Archie Clark and Leo Robinson in the top 10. That's how things stand at the moment, but they have only just set their first rolling lap around the circuit. So we are going to get to see more competitive laps from them as the session continues on. So we'll see how the drivers continue to fare as they go on around this circuit. So, Harry Junior Burgoyne's time of 109.80. That's just under a second off the pace. So it isn't going to be too long before the drivers are now going to start getting those fast laps in. So we wait for the drivers to get their ultimate times together. It's going to be any moment now that they will do so. Harry Junior Burgoyne out in front from Vinnie Phillips, but Vinnie Phillips crosses the line and gets a 109.32. And now Macaulay Bishop beats it by 100th, and now Maximus Hall does a 109.26. And that's enough to be 7th overall already. So with 2 minutes to go, it looks like this group could even be the faster group. They've just got to keep finding that time. Admittedly, they have still got to find just under 0.4 of a second to get close to the time set by Sonny Smith, but that is achievable. And I think everybody in that crew knows it is. It is going to be quite tight. They all know how difficult it's going to be. But we'll see how the battle progresses in these last minute and a half of the session. The drivers continue to get those times down. Fastest of all in the first sector is now Ted Bradbury on a 24.32 for Sam Pollitt Racing. Good run from him in the first sector then. Fastest of all in the second sector is actually Ashton Hodgson, one of the 4 drivers in this class who are battling this weekend for 3rd in the standings. 4 drivers separated by just 3 points. That's how close it is in High Army Cadet in the Winter Series 2019 here at Trent Valley Kart Club. Over the line, and Nakamura Berta goes to the top, but Vinnie Phillips goes faster still. But they've set the same time, a 109.06, a 109.05 now though for Macaulay Bishop. 3 of them have set the same time, in fact. Vinnie Phillips, Kian Nakamura Berta and Ashton Hodgson. They've all done a 109.06. Harley Keeble's done a 109.07. Bishop ahead of them all has done a 109.05. That's 0.02 of a second, covering 5 drivers. My goodness, it's close. And Macaulay Bishop, with that lap, has gone 3rd overall. So, currently it is still Smith and Neat at the sharp end, but they could be caught by this gaggle of carts pounding around. So, Bishop, Phillips, Nakamura Berta, Hodgson, Keeble, and then Archie Clark in 6th ahead of O'Grady, Maximus Hall, Harry Junior Burgoyne and Nathan Tye. That's your top 10 in this group. But several drivers are jockeying for position. Some of them are going to go around for another lap. Again, some of them are going to have to wait their opportunity until tomorrow to go racing and go faster still. Checkered flag is poised, but the first 3 drivers at least over the line are going to go into another lap. How many more will do so? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, checkered flag crosses out for Alex O'Grady, who goes 5th fastest on a 109.04. So very close to the top. But Vinnie Phillips has now done a 108.86. That's 0.03 away from Sonny Smith. Vinnie Phillips could grab the pole position with another fast lap. Harley Keeble is now 2nd from Macaulay Bishop and Kian Nakamura Berta. All 4 of those drivers are on their final flying lap now. But Alex O'Grady in 5th has finished his session. The only other 4 drivers in the mix who have yet to complete their final lap is Ashton Hodgson, Archie Clark, Harry Junior Burgoyne and Leo Robinson. All the others have crossed the checkered flag for the last time in this session. So there's 8 of them who could bid for pole. Phillips, Keeble, Bishop, Nakamura Berta, Hodgson, Clark, Burgoyne and Robinson. And it's going to be tight. At the top end, there's only 0.5 of a second between them all. Across the line they will come. The checkered flag is about to fly, and this group is going to be absolutely on the lock stops. Over the line are going to come Vinnie Phillips and Kiya Nakamura Berta. Who's going to get pole? It's Kiya Nakamura Berta with a 108.74. He's done it at the top of the grid. Ashton Hodgson second, and Archie Clark goes third. Amazing lap there from those three. Absolutely terrific. The top 5 drivers in this session are the top 5 overall, and they all wear blue and red. Fusion Motorsport 1 through 5 in time qualifying, but Nakamura Berta first from Ashton Hodgson and Archie Clark. Leo Robertson is 4th from Vinnie Phillips, and then Macaulay Bishop. And then overall 7th is going to be Sonny Smith ahead of Aidan Neat. The 2 previous qualifiers at the top spot are only 7th and 8th this time. And then it'll be Harley Keeble and Harry Jr. Burgoyne, who are 7th and 8th in this group. In this group, continuing on, 9th is Alex O'Grady. 10th is the Gladiator, Maximus Hall, in front of Nathan Tye and Ethan Jeff Hall. Then Micah Taylor and Ted Bradbury, Charlie Hart and Jack Cunningham from Hadi Mamassi and Finn Leslie, Joe Rippin and George Edgar, Alfie Slater and Mason Rudman, from Ben Folland and Sebastian Mins, Gabe Fairbrother and Brandon Carr, way down in 26th in this group. Then it's Joe Anderson, Leif Kahn and Oscar Cartmail. So it's a very dramatic IAMI Cadet session, really exciting stuff. And now we go into Group A for Senior X30. The drivers are heading out on circuit straight away. And it's going to be a tight one in the battle for the title for Senior X30 as well. There's only 7 points in it between Thomas Turner and Louis Westover. So if Westover wins, Thomas Turner will need to be at least P4 in the final if he's going to win the Winter Series. It's going to be tight at the top, and that's exactly how we like it, close to the finish. So the drivers in this first time group are Rory Hudson, Reese Ushijima, Jensen Brown, Matthias Agazeta, Archie Tillett, Alex Wang, Matthew Hudson, Thomas Wood, Jack Bowman, Lewis Gilbert, Teddy Pritchard-Williams and Luke Whitehead, Harry Whittaker and Harry Torpey, Gus Lawrence and Cameron Coombs, from Alexander Patterson and Lucas Vaus, then Travis Mitchell and Andrew Trevor, Harry Platten and Ben Hodge, Jonathan Campbell and Artu Salmela, Emil Karjalainen, Valtteri Valkeavi and Nelson King. So a lot of talent in this one, of course. Again, more drivers are bidding to win the British Championship, which starts a week from now. So they're using this as a testing platform. So a few of the drivers who've not been here since the start of the season are getting some laps in. The first flying laps have come in from Andrew Trevor, which is beaten immediately by Travis Mitchell. Now, in terms of the qualifying record in Senior X30, well, that was set all the way back in January by Ben Barnacle, who was here, certainly was here yesterday doing some training. I'm not sure if he's still here. Hopefully he probably will be watching on, but his time has not been beaten so far this season in qualifying. A 57.44 is what he set back in January. And as you can tell by the current fastest time of Travis Mitchell's, which is a 104.57, we've got some time to find before we can even think about getting to that point. But it is early doors. Now the drivers are starting to file out onto the circuit quite late, out onto the circuit. But Senior X30 drivers, they like to have this excuse of, well, we're saving tyres. I don't think that's the real reason, personally. I genuinely have the opinion that that has got to come down to mind games. They can't all be saving tyres that dramatically. So the drivers are now getting themselves dialed in once again and ready for the action. This is going to get quite tight, actually, in Senior X30. There's a lot of good drivers in this field, and all of them can be separated by a good half second. So there's a lot to talk about in this particular session. But it is separated once again into 2 groups. Fastest of all so far is Lucas Vaus, who has done a 59.96. But again, the best time set this season is a 57.44, so that can be achieved. So Lucas Vaus currently the fastest, from Travis Mitchell, Valtteri Valkeavi, Andrew Trevor and Nelson King, ahead of Harry Platten and Harry Torpey, from Rory Hudson, Ben Hodge and Archie Tillett. Now Gus Lawrence comes up to P5. Alex Wang and Matthew Hudson together for Mick Barrett Racing knocked their way into the top 10. But Lewis Gilbert comes up now with his first banker lap. Fastest of all now, though, is Harry Whittaker on a 59.90. Once we start getting towards the 58s and the 57s, that's when we're going to see the real fast laps come in. Travis Mitchell and Andrew Trevor are deep into the 59s now. So give it a couple more minutes and we'll start to get those seriously fast lap times in from the drivers. As Lucas Vaus does a 59.18. That's the new fastest time, ahead of Travis Mitchell and the Finn Valtteri Valkeavi. Then Whittaker, Trevor, Cameron Coombs, who is just over the minute mark. And now we've got the rest of the drivers coming in. Luke Whitehead for the Crop Promotion Works Squad has just gone in second position. Good work there. Just a whisker in front of his teammate Travis Mitchell. And now the lap times are coming in. Teddy Pritchard-Williams does a third position time. I was going to say second, but now Gus Lawrence goes faster still on a 58.87. And there's Lewis Gilbert. Very nearly the Senior X30 winner a week ago in Marienborg, the European Series, in his first European meeting as a senior. So Lewis Gilbert's riding high in Senior X30 at the moment, but he's second fastest in this session at the moment. In front of him is Gus Lawrence. Now Travis Mitchell puts in a 58.86. So that's the kind of pace we're getting to now. A few drivers deciding to hang back on this lap and tuck in to start another one. That's the 210 going very slowly. That's Artu Salmela, one of the Mark Litchfield racing drivers. He's got a nice crop of fins this season as Mark Litchfield. Not just Artu Salmela, but also Emil Karjalainen and Valtteri Valkejärvi. And across the line to start another lap is Jack Bowman, who goes up into the top 6 with that lap. Now we're getting the fast laps in. Harry Platten goes to the top, a 58.35 in front of Rory Hudson and Teddy Pritchard-Williams. Harry Platten goes faster still, a 58.35. So Platten, now Gilbert goes fastest, a 58.17. A 58.17 for Gilbert. That's the new fastest time of the session. A really good run there in front of Platten. And then Rory and Matthew Hudson. So Rory Hudson for Dan Holland Racing. Matthew Hudson for Mick Barrett Racing. And then Harry Whittaker, Teddy Pritchard-Williams, Alex Wang, Travis Mitchell. And then Nelson King and Thomas Wood from Emil Karjalainen and Harry Torpy. So a really tense battle at the sharp end of the field as we only have half a minute left to go in this time qualifying session. And again, it's going to be the old problem. Some will get another lap in, others will not. And some are trying to place themselves in the traffic jam fairly quickly so that they can get another lap in. To be fair, in Senior X30, a lot of them will get another lap in, as Jack Bowman momentarily creeps back into the top 10. Platten does a 58.11, new fastest time. In front of Gilbert, Hudson, King, Matthew Hudson, Emil Karjalainen, Whittaker, Wood and Pritchard-Williams. Gilbert goes faster still, a 57 now, 57.97. Half a second away from what we saw in January. Checkered flag is out. And the first two over the line are Harry Torpy and Cameron Coombs. Torpy in the Litchfield Motorsport squad puts himself into P8 for the moment. Travis Mitchell can only manage 12th. Andrew Trevor will be at best 16th for Sam Pollitt Racing. The rest of them are all going to be out there getting their final flying lap in. Fastest of all in the first sector is Harry Platten. He's currently third. Fastest of all in the second sector is Nelson King. He's currently 6th. There's 0.4 of a second between the top 6 drivers in this group. So it is going to be quite tight at the top end. Drivers coming out of the final turn and down the main straight. Over the line goes Bowman. He gets 12th best. But over the line, Nelson King goes to third. Platten goes to second. Nobody's going to beat Gilbert at this rate. Matthew Hudson trying to get there. Gus Lawrence goes faster still. And he goes third. Gilbert remains in the top spot, but now on a 57.88 in front of Platten, Lawrence, Matthew and Rory Hudson from Nelson King in 6th. Then Teddy Pritchard-Williams, Matthias Agazeta, and rounding out the top 10 for this group is Archie Tillett and Artu Salmela. Then it's Alex Patterson from Luke Whitehead and Harry Whittaker, Reese Ushijima and Jensen Brown, Tom Wood and Emil Karjalainen, then Lucas Vals and Harry Torpy from Alex Wang, Jack Bowman, Travis Mitchell, Cameron Coombs, Ben Hodge, Jonathan Campbell, Andrew Trevor, and right to the back of the field, unfortunately in this group, is Valtteri Valkejärvi. So that's 27 of them, all coming out to play. And now we will see what the rest of them will do in timed qualifying Group B, as Lewis Gilbert provisionally holds the top spot of a 57.88. It hasn't taken him long at all to get up to speed in Senior X30, and it doesn't matter where we go, whether it's on the continent or here in Blighty, he is still one of the top Senior X30 drivers on the planet right now. You wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago when he was making his debut. You would have said he could be. Now he's proving he is. So the second timed qualifying group is about to come out onto the circuit. The green flag will fly at the top of the gantry. 6 more minutes go on the clock, and it's all up to whether they can beat Lewis Gilbert in this second group for timed qualifying. And what a group of drivers it's going to be heading out on the circuit this time. A handful of them have already gone out, but it's the O-Plate Thomas Turner bidding for the title, along with Oliver Hodgson, the local hero, Sean Butcher, Derek Morgan, Eduardo Cosseteng, Abigail Ross, Henry Ayres, Max Jean, Matthew Hunt, another of the title contenders, Louis Westover, Josh Graham, Lee Chamberlain, Elliot Harvey, Alex Pendlebury, Alex Lloyd, then Oliver Greetham, Tom Nippers, Caleb Marshall, Ben Cowley, Cole Kilner, Clayton Ravenscroft, Matt Armstrong, Kieran Jeremy, and Alex Spinks. Those of you wondering what has happened to Kira Scott, she was involved in an incident earlier on, and despite a nasty knock, she's been seen to by the medics, and she will take no further part in the meeting, unfortunately, as far as we are told. But the good thing is that Kira Scott essentially is okay, so we will move on. And a massive thank you as well to the medic teams and all of the staff at Trent Valley Kart Club for keeping everybody safe and sound over the weekend. So that is a little sad, but fortunately it's nothing major. Across the line, Tom Nippers sets the fastest lap of the session. Oliver Greetham, Ben Coley, and Lee Chamberlain are the ones who are also out there. Nobody else has got out. Now they will, with 4 minutes and 40 to go. Led out by the 33 of Josh Graham of the DB Motorsport squad. In fact, no, he does not lead them out because they have decided not to come out onto the circuit just yet. So they're still waiting for their moment. Now they do, following in after the 119 of Matt Armstrong. But again, still only a handful go out on circuit. They're all just waiting for their optimum moment. Now they decide to all fly out on the circuit as the 21 of Max Jean for Litchfield Motorsport heads out on circuit, and that is the catalyst that guides them all out on circuit. But for the current pole sitter, Lewis Gilbert, it's that agonising wait at the top of the standings to see whether he will remain in pole position for the season finale of the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series here at PF International in Lincolnshire on what is a very cold and blustery day. Air temperature 10 degrees. Track temperature is probably about 12 to 13 degrees, so it's still very cool. But obviously that means that the tyres will be working up to temperature fairly rapidly. So the drivers are obviously wanting to get the most out of the tyres and brakes as they get themselves up to temperature. Tom Nippers, by the way, has got his time down to a 58.98. So a good run so far from Tom Nippers, the privateer. Now the field is starting to put their first flying laps in around the circuit, although it's going to take a while for the times to get down to the 57s. And so far only two drivers have managed that, Lewis Gilbert and Harry Platten. So how many more will get to the 57 mark? Have they left it a little bit too late to get that ultimate time out? I think they might have done. I think if the field had managed to go out for maybe a minute earlier, they might have had a chance of it, but I think they're going to hold each other up too much because they've just left it going out on circuit just that tiniest bit too long for my liking, and that's going to make the final few seconds of time qualifying very intriguing as a few of the drivers are going to try and get there to the top spot. Tom Nippers has just done a 58.50 out on his own. That's only 0.3 of a second away from R2 Sal Mailer in the overall top 10, so Nippers is still going quite strong, but he obviously needs to find a little bit more time out there if he can. Matt Armstrong goes second, then Derek Morgan for DB Motorsport replaces him. So Derek Morgan, having joined forces with DB Motorsport for the 2019 campaign, leaving his previous mount, is now in second place on a 58.76. The drivers now coming in to get some fast laps on the board. Oliver Hodgson does a 58.87. First of the big names to get into the 58s. Nippers has now got Thomas Turner right on his tail. 32 hundredths of a second back from Nippers. But there's still a long way to go. Nippers from Turner, Greetham, Morgan, Harvey, Hodgson, Cowley, Kilner, Alex Lloyd and Matt Armstrong in the provisional top 10 of this group. Tom Nippers has just made his way into the overall top 10. So a really exciting battle. But it is going to be quite tight. So we'll see how things progress, but Tom Nippers, Thomas Turner, Oliver Greetham and Derek Morgan from Elliot Harvey and Oliver Hodgson. Now we get the fast times in. Derek Morgan's gone straight into the 57s. Has gone faster than Platten. A 57.94 from Derek Morgan. Wow, what a fantastic start to his session. We've still got a minute plus the few seconds in addition to go on that one. So perhaps they've timed it just right, in fact, as Oliver Hodgson now goes second on a 58.08, I should say. Cole Kilner and Sean Butcher set the same time. And now overall pole is Thomas Turner. 57.79 for Thomas Turner. That's the overall pole time as far as he's concerned. But Derek Morgan, Cole Kilner and Sean Butcher have all set exactly the same time at 57.94. Amazing. 3 of them dead level to the 100th of a second. But there's still time to go. Over the line, Josh Graham comes back up to 22nd on a 59.04. But if you want to be in the top 10, you need to be flirting with the 57s now. So Thomas Turner is fastest of all. Derek Morgan remains on a 57.94. In fact, his last lap was absolutely identical. He set the same time twice, Derek Morgan. So then behind him is Cole Kilner, and then Oliver Hodgson. Oliver Hodgson goes fastest of all. Now Westover goes fastest, then Harvey, then Ravenscroft, then Butcher, then Thomas Turner. Checkered flag is out, and Tom Nippers is the first one across the line. But it's going to be an agonising problem for Lewis Gilbert as he tumbles down to 8th overall in the standings. But these guys have found the ultimate pace, and most of them still have another flying lap in the bag. So, a quarter of a second covers the top 5. It's Turner from Butcher, Ravenscroft, Harvey and Westover. Then it's Oliver Hodgson and Alex Lloyd, Derek Morgan, Cole Kilner and Kieran Jeremy in this battle, in this qualifying group. But the checkered flag is coming out now as Armstrong and Morgan come through. They're not going to make top 6 in this group. But where are the top 5? Turner, Butcher, Ravenscroft, Harvey, Westover. They are coming through the final few corners now in the gaggle of karts in the train across the line. And the first one over the line in this group is the 17 of Henry Ayres. Hodgson goes 5th in front of Westover. Westover goes fastest, the 57.44. That's the same time to the 100. Thomas Turner goes faster still. 57.39. That's a new qualifying record for the Winter Series 2019. Thomas Turner gets pole position for the qualifying group in Senior X30 with a 57.39. A brilliant lap, and ironically, that is exactly the same time to the 100th of a second as the qualifying record in Senior Rotax, would you believe? Absolutely incredible. To the 100th of a second, it's the same time. Senior X30 and Senior Rotax have exactly the same qualifying record. To the 100th of a second, 57.39, set by Thomas Turner in Senior X30 and in Rotax by Reese Hunter. They have the same time, 57.39. That's pretty unbelievable, actually. But Thomas Turner is the fastest of all in the group, and everybody in the top 10 in this group makes it to the top 10 overall. Turner, Westover and Kilner from Elliott, Harvey and Sean Butcher. Ravenscroft is 6th in front of Alex Lloyd. Then Hodgson, Pendlebury and Jeremy. Then it's Armstrong, Cosseteng, Morgan and Caleb Marshall from Tom Nippers and Abigail Ross. Max Jean, Alex Spinks, Henry Ayres, Oliver Greetham, Matthew Hunt, Ben Cowley and Josh Graham in front of Lee Chamberlain, who pulled in, and Kira Scott, who is sadly no longer taking part in the weekend from what we hear. But we go from Senior X30 into Honda Cadet for, again, a split group, and it's time to qualifying Group A. Now, the title protagonists in Army Cadet are exactly the same. It's Nakamura Berta versus Sonny Smith. However, the roles in Honda Cadet are reversed because the gap is 7 points in Smith's favour, not Nakamura Berta's. Now, Smith actually needs 4th or better to be confirmed as champion if Kian Nakamura Berta wins the race. If Jack Plant, who is not far off the move either, grabs the victory, then Kian Nakamura Berta would need P7 to hold him off. So it's going to be a very interesting battle over the course of the weekend in Honda Cadet. Lots of top drivers, of course, coming out, and these guys are obviously using this as preparation for their first Motorsport UK British Kart Championship round, which is in 3 weekends' time at this very circuit. So next week it's the Army round, and 3 weeks from now it's the TKM and Honda Brigade. So the Honda Cadets are using this as their stomping ground. In this group, it's a pretty exciting one because the 2 championship protagonists are going to be in the same timed qualifying group, battling for pole position. So Kian Nakamura Berta and Sonny Smith will be together. And then joining them in the group will be Lewis Iceland, Nathan Marquez, Liam Hartley, Kasper Tomilewski and Bradley Bick, Macy Hitter and Zach Drummond, Oliver Bocock and Owen Neve, Oliver Guyard and Damien Barris-Haggett, Jacob Gilman and Oscar O'Sullivan, Hayden Eldridge and Jack Plant, so all 3 title contenders are in the same time qualifying group then, Sonny Mortensen and Oliver Buckton, Henry Gregory and Joe Cheek, Thomas C. Yeomans and Thomas Behrman, Callum Ghosh and Joshua Patch from Ralph Youngling, Aidan Evans and Freddie Hull. So that's the first time group, 6 minutes on the board. And we've gained back a lot of the time that we lost from earlier practice sessions, which is good news. The green flag flies, and the Honda Cadets swarm out onto the circuit. No waiting around for them. The second the flag goes green, they don't wait around, these cadets. They just want to get out there, and they just want to pound laps around the circuit. So all of them out on circuit, but what a battle this is going to be, as Kia Nakamura-Berta and Sonny Smith are, interestingly, the last two drivers out onto the circuit. And those are the two that will battle away for pole position. But of course, they've got the rest of the field from the time group out there on track as well. But Kia Nakamura-Berta and Sonny Smith have gone out onto the circuit together. And of course, they had that famous battle 4 weeks ago at this very circuit where they battled for supremacy. And it got a little bit hectic. 5 weeks ago, my apologies. Got a little bit hectic. One of them ended up in the barriers, and I think it was the Honda Cadet class. So in this class, and Sonny Smith ended up taking a strong lead, although Sonny Smith needs to finish up in a very strong position here. So Smith could afford to be fourth or better if Nakamura-Berta takes the victory in the final tomorrow, and he will be threatening to do so. But there's a qualifying session to get underway first. And in terms of qualifying records for Honda Cadet, well, we saw the practice record tumble earlier on. But in terms of the actual course record for the qualifying, that still is held by Jack Plant, who did a 108.81 at the start of the season. So I'll have to see if that changes over the course of this afternoon's practice session, time qualifying, I should say. For the record, the first lap is in, and it's Zach Drummond at the top spot on a 1:14.11, although, of course, all of the drivers are still dialing in the speed. Drummond from Smith, Eldridge and Nakamura-Berta, from Gilman, Macy Hitter, Freddie Hull, Damien Barris-Haggett, Aidan Evans and Bradley Bick. Now, watching the drivers through in the first sector, fastest of all in the first sector is actually Tom C. Yeomans, who has done a 24.76. So a very good lap this is going to end up being from Yeomans, provided he can keep the run all the way through the lap. A little bit of an issue there for, I believe, Callum Ghosh, who had a bit of a difficulty in falling off the back of the pack, I should say. But across the line, and it's going to be these two that cross the line first and second, Zach Drummond and Hayden Eldridge. They get into the 110s on their first serious flying lap. Tom C. Yeomans goes initially third, but then Cheek and Mortensen both go faster still, and Nakamura-Berta and Sonny Smith are first and second. Are we particularly surprised? Not really. Oh, and there's a spin under the Litchfield Bridge. So there's a spin under the bridge. Didn't quite see who that was, but fortunately they have continued going without incident, so that is great kart control, because the kart was slewing towards the inner wall on the inside line and managed to avert going into the barriers. So very good kart control there from that particular driver. Trying to see who it was that ended up having that little bit of a spin as they came through, and I think it was Oliver Bocock who had the spin, but he's going to keep going despite that little pirouette. So good recovery from Oliver Bocock, and hopefully there's another fast lap in the tank. Meanwhile, though, it's Nakamura-Berta from Sonny Smith in this qualifying group, 0.04 of a second between them as they battle away for position. Third place, Zach Drummond in front of Joe Cheek and Hayden Eldridge, then Sonny Mortensen and Thomas C. Yeomans, Bradley Bick and Freddie Hull, and then Youngling, who is there in P10, Henry Gregory and Macy Hitter. Now they're going to come through and get a few more laps in. It's going to be Kia Nakamura-Berta. No, it's not. Sonny Smith's gone faster still, a 109.10. Then Kia Nakamura-Berta and Jack Plant. So the top three drivers in the title standings are 1, 2 and 3 in qualifying at this moment in time. And that's going to make things very entertaining if that's the grid we get overall. But there is still another group to come after this one. So it's Smith, Nakamura-Berta, then Jack Plant, Zach Drummond, Sonny Mortensen, Bradley Bick, Hayden Eldridge, Thomas C. Yeomans, Ralph Youngling, and Joe Cheek. That's the top 10 at the moment. Still plenty of talent to come through in the second group, of course, as well. But at the moment, it is looking good for Smith, Nakamura-Berta, and Plant. 1, 2, and 3 as we go into the final 90 seconds of time qualifying. And they are still pushing for that ragged edge. They want to get a little bit further over the envelope. But it's Oliver Rowland Motorsports man Sonny Smith, who is currently fastest by 0.44. That's a big gap back to Nakamura-Berta. Expect him to chop that down in his next flying lap. Fastest of all, though, in the second sector is Sonny Smith. Zach Drummond has gone up to second on a 109.49. But where are Smith and Nakamura-Berta? Mortensen goes second. Smith comes through. Nakamura-Berta goes back to second. 0.12 deficit. But a fastest lap of the session for Sonny Smith on a 108.95. That's a really good run. But it's not quite there for Jack Plant's overall qualifying record. But it's definitely getting towards it, as they are now, I think most of them, on their final flying lap for qualifying. Interestingly, in their bid to go for pole position, both Sonny Smith and Kia Nakamura-Berta have overtaken most of the field in their bid to go through to pole position. So they basically just decided, well, we'll race the guys in front, and that's how we're going to get our fastest lap time. Kia Nakamura-Berta having to make an overtake into the S's, but still keeping the pace up. He was fastest of all in the first sector. Sonny Smith did not get the best of first sectors that time, and not in the second either. Nakamura-Berta has been held up a little bit as well, so I think that could be all she wrote in this qualifying session, unless the likes of Plant, Mortensen, Drummond and Eldridge can go faster still. The checkered flag is going to come out for Drummond and Eldridge. They've got another lap. Checkered flag, though, is out on circuit. So the checkered flag is out, and Kia Nakamura-Berta remains in top with a 108.71. That has absolutely smashed the previous time from Jack Plant by a tenth of a second. So now we have a 108.71 from Kian Nakamura-Berta as he goes fastest of all in the qualifying session, certainly in this group, in front of Sonny Smith and Jack Plant, then Sonny Mortensen. But we need to keep an eye as well on the likes of Zach Drummond and Hayden Eldridge. The two of them together are 5th and 6th. And they are still one flying lap to go. The rest of them have all finished up. Joe Cheek is 7th from Gilman, Islin and Yeomans. Then it's Henry Gregory in front of Aidan Evans. Then Barris, Haggard and Hull, Patch, Bick, Behrman, Youngling. Then Marquez, Hitter, Neve and O'Sullivan. But the checkered flag is going to come down for these two, Eldridge and Drummond. They are 0.7 of a second off the pace, but if they've worked together, they might get another fast time in over the line. Are they going to get further up the order? No, they are not. So unfortunately, they cannot improve on their previous time. So despite the checkered flag having already come out, a lot of them are already on another flying lap. The rest of them are being flagged in. But it's Kia Nakamura-Berta on the top spot. A 108.71 from Sonny Smith in second and Jack Plant third. From Sonny Mortensen and Zach Drummond. Then it is Hayden Eldridge, Joe Cheek, Jacob Gilman, Lewis Islin and Tom C. Yeomans. And then it's Gregory from Evans, Barris, Haggart and Hull, Patch, Bick, Behrman, Youngling, Marquez and Macy Hitter. From Owen Neve, Oscar O'Sullivan, Callum Ghosh and Oliver Guyard. Then Liam Hartley, Oliver Bocock, Kasper Tomilewski and Oliver Buckton. That's 28 of them, but there are still quite a lot more to come from that second-timed qualifying group. And Kia Nakamura-Berta has set a new qualifying record for the Winter Series, a 108.71. A very good lap time indeed there from Kia Nakamura-Berta, and that makes him the second driver today to have eclipsed the previous held qualifying record from the Winter Series, the first of those being Thomas Turner. And in fact, with that pace, Kia Nakamura-Berta is now the fastest qualifier of the season, but not the fastest driver of the season. That comes from a race earlier on in the year. Sonny Smith got a 107.97 out of the kart in one of the previous races. However, Honda Cadet's second qualifying group is about to come out on the circuit, with the drivers namely Reg Hayward, Stephen Duncan, Freddie Lloyd, Joshua Gambar, Noah Barham, Jaden Gregg, Blake Ticehurst, Cruz Speakman, Jamie Pirelli, Connor Duncan, Miles Turnbull, Oliver Stilp, Mikey Porter, Devon Nolan, then Ryotaro Sakai, Dylan McKay, Reese Lomax, Mitchell Gibbons, Rylan Ekberg, Henry N.G. Zederberg, Anastasia Dean, Finley Whiting, Joshua Rudd, Ollie Handley, Gustav Isakov, Wesley Swain, Ollie Poole and Timo Youngling. So the drivers out on circuit then, having come straight out of the pits, all 28 or so of them, I think it is, that have come out onto the circuit, certainly well into the 20s, and that's only one qualifying group. We had 28 of them, of course, for the previous qualifying group. Now they're all swarming around, getting themselves into position. The time to beat is a new qualifying record, a 108.71 qualifying record for this winter series of the Trent Valley Kart Club 2019, of course. So let's see if that time can be beaten by this second group. It is going to be a tall order because all of the championship contenders were in the previous qualifying group. So we'll see what the drivers can pull out of the bag, but all it takes is good momentum and the right foot planted in exactly the right places around the circuit. You might just get another opportunity as, bless them, the entire Trent Valley Kart Club team are trying to keep warm out on the gantry. Even Martin Bean is having to dab his way, and he's dabbing and flossing like crazy, trying to keep warm, bless him. Yes, I am going to embarrass him. Why not? Anyway, the Honda Cadets charging over the line to start their flying laps. Once again, it's a 68-second lap that's really going to get a chance at pole position. Only 2 drivers have got into the 68s, namely Kia Nakamura-Berta and Sonny Smith. Jack Plant did a 109.3, but that's going to be quite difficult for him to hold on to a third place with the talent that we've got in this second group. Whether they'll get to the top 2, it's going to be tight, but certainly third position is up for grabs from this qualifying group at the very minimal. I think they can get potentially even more than that, especially as the temperature decreases. There's still no rain, so it's going to be dry and cool, and that means, of course, that with the cold air and the cold track temperature, we're going to get some really good running in with this rubber. They're going to get a lot of heat into the tyres, and that's going to get things very entertaining as the karts will go faster around the circuits. Why we've had several of the classes already beat their times from previous rounds earlier on in this season. So the drivers coming through at the end of their first flying lap. For the record, Devon Nolan was just in front of Joshua Gambar, although they have set exactly the same time to the 100th. And through they come. And immediately on the pace is Gustav Ushukov, who's done a 1:11.23. They're still going to find plenty more time, though, around the circuit. They'll definitely get towards the 109s. In the 110s already is Mitchell Gibbons, who's gone fastest of all. Connor Duncan just a whisker off that. Then Devon Nolan, Joshua Gambar, Gustav Ushukov, and Henry N.G. Zederberg for the Synergy Works squad. Then Wesley Swain, Cruz Speakman, and Timo Jungling in front of Rylan Ekberg. And then it is Dylan McKay. So the drivers working their magic as they go down the straight and into the hairpin. And onto the parallel straight to the left-hander. Back on the power. Fastest of all in the first sector is Mitchell Gibbons, who's done a 24.38. That is comparable with the top 10 from the previous session. A 22.25 for Cruz Speakman was the fastest, but that's been bested by several, including Gustav Ushukov, who is now the fastest of all in the second sector. So the times are going to tumble. 2 minutes 25 on the clock now as the drivers will pound down the main straight, looking for that last bit of time, ducking down behind the steering wheel, to get themselves further up the order as Jaden Gregg gets a 1:10.13. So a 1:10.13 in front of Cruz Speakman, Gustav Ushukov. Up to the top goes Connor Duncan. Mitchell Gibbons tucks in for second place, and a 1:09.65 for Connor Duncan. The fastest time of the session so far is good enough for 8th overall at the moment. So they are finding the time. It's just a case of how much time can they find from here. So Connor Duncan, Mitchell Gibbons and Jaden Gregg. And they will continue to charge forward. A really good battle as they continue to progress down the straight. Through to the hairpin once again. Down the short stretch into the second hairpin. So it's Duncan, Gibbons, Gregg, Speakman, Agambar, then Ushukov, Stephen Duncan, Devon Nolan and Henry N.G. Zederberg. So far, so good. Jamie Pirelli rounding out the top 10 for the moment from Timo Jungling and Freddie Lloyd. Then Lomax, Swain, Ekberg, McKay, Whiting, Hayward and Mikey Porter ahead of Blake Ticehurst. Then Ryotaro Sakai, Handley, Poole, Turnbull, Rudd, Anastasia Dean, and then Oliver Stilp and Noah Barham. The checkered flag is about a minute away. Jaden Gregg goes fastest of all, a 1:09.47. Fastest in this group, I should say. A 1:09.44 from Duncan, a 1:09.39 for Mitchell Gibbons. That's enough for 4th overall. So Mitchell Gibbons and Connor Duncan are bidding to get onto that second row. At the moment, it's Gibbons who's going to get there, then Duncan and Jaden Gregg. So those three have got a decent stretch out in front of Freddie Lloyd. But Freddie Lloyd is the best of the rest in the number 17, the Dan Holland racing driver. So they're going to keep pushing out of these two chicanes as we're into the final 30 seconds of the session. There's going to be a handful of drivers again who are going to get another flying lap in from this one. but not all of them will do so. We've got yellow flags at the Litchfield Bridge. Somebody's handing off up at the hairpin at the Litchfield Bridge. Can't quite make out who it is, unfortunately. But Mikey Porter has had to take avoiding action. We know that much at least. We think the one who's got off is Joshua Rudd. So Joshua Rudd has not come through to start another qualifying lap, we think. Checkered flag is out on circuit, though, so it's not going to affect any lap times. As to the top, is there going to be an improvement? Greg remains third. Henry Ng Zederberg goes fourth fastest. He's not able to get into the overall top 10, though. And Mitchell Gibbons and Connor Duncan are fastest lap still from Gibbons at 1:09.15. But it's not enough to crack the front row. And there's a spin just after the line. I think that's Ryotaro Sakai, the Japanese driver. I'm fairly sure he has spun at the first corner. He's not been collected by anybody and gets going again. But a scary moment nonetheless, but he's all right. Mitchell Gibbons is fastest from this group, and that's enough to go third overall, just a whisker in front of Jack Plant. Connor Duncan is second from the group in front of Jaden Gregg. They are fifth and sixth overall. Freddie Lloyd is fourth in the group. That's seventh overall. And then it is Stephen Duncan who makes the top 10 in fifth place in the group. Then it's Henry Ng Zederberg in sixth of this group. Then Timo Jungling, Rylan Ekberg, Devon Nolan and Cruz Speakman round out the group top 10. Wesley Swain and Blake Ticehurst from Gustav Ushakov and Dylan McKay. Joshua Gambar and Reese Lomax, Ryotaro Sakai and Ollie Handley. Then Jamie Pirelli, Reg Hayward, Mars Turnbull, Ollie Poole, Anastasia Dean, Finley Whiting, Mikey Porter, Oliver Stilp and Noah Barham, with Joshua Rudd sadly having his incident during the qualifying, but he still got a 1:11.72 before that incident occurred. So not a bad run. Very tight battles in Honda Cadet to come over the weekend as they prepare for action once again tomorrow for their races. 37 races total tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely magic. And don't worry, folks, I have packed the breath mints. It's going to be very hard to keep on top of everything. 37 races tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely magic. I get those special Belgian ones that really do help the throat. In case you're wondering, why on earth would breath mints work, Jake? You mad? No, trust me, they do work. Anyway, Junior Rotax time qualifying now. And this is another showdown in terms of the title fight between two drivers in Junior Rotax. And it's going to be a very close battle. Kai Hunter and Matty Hingley are just 4 points apart. So to win the title, Matty Hingley needs to win and hope essentially that Kai Hunter is third or lower. So it's so tight at the top end of this championship battle. But if Kai Hunter finishes at least second, he will be the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series champion. But the pressure is on him essentially with 4 points advantage over Matty Hingley. Out come the drivers and they are as follows. Matty Hingley, Dan Armstrong, Dougie Bolger, Madison Foley, Dan Parent-Smith, Joshua Valance, Scott Lapsley, Cameron Stevenson, William Walker, James Winter, Daniel Ginshard, Luke Scharf, Ben Casey, Oscar Hull, Jack Stedman, John Knox, Alex Doddington, Will Egby, Frederick Lubin, Hugh Lawrenson, Harrison Collins and Ben Maxim. Now, interestingly, two drivers have yet to go out on circuit. That's Luke Scharf and Ben Maxim. The two of those will go out hopefully later on in the session. But there is a very tough fight in Junior Rotax. There goes Ben Maxim, and also out on track is, in fact, Luke Scharf. So they have now gone onto the circuit. Now, this is going to be tight because we've got that championship fight between Hunter and Hingley. That's going to be a very difficult battle at the sharp end of the field. Well, I say that, but it looks to me as though Kai Hunter is not in the fray. I thought he was. My apologies. But it looks to me as though Kai Hunter is not here. Now, that means, ultimately, because I saw him in the initial entry list, now if Kai Hunter is not here, then all Matty Hingley essentially needs to do is get a decent points finish. And that would make him the club champion. So, essentially, Kai Hunter has already handed the title to Matty Hingley by not appearing. So that's a rather interesting way for the title to go, not from Kai's point of view, but the drivers are out there. There's going to be a really interesting battle, though, in this Junior Rotax grid, because we've got a lot of drivers with a point to prove after last week's beginning of the season for the Motorsport UK Rotax field. There's a few drivers in the fray here who want to continue to build on what they did last week, and a few of them who are trying something new. I notice in the Fusion Motorsport fray in Junior Rotax is Dougie Bolger. Now, Dougie Bolger is actually a senior in Europe, but here in Great Britain, he is still technically a junior, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes in Junior Rotax the first time of asking. And Dan Ginchard, who has started the season in Britain as a Junior X30 driver, went over to Europe recently as a Rotax driver, and the SFR Motorsport crew have found that this is the better option for him. So I think Junior Rotax is going to be the way forward for Dan Ginchard in 2019. So Harrison Collins has set the first initial lap of a flying nature, just quicker than Dan Ginchard and Matty Hingley. Then Ben Casey and Josh Vallance, Hugh Lawrenson and Dougie Bolger, Oscar Houle, John Knox, Jack Steadman and Will Walker. Then Dan Armstrong and James Winter, Will Egby and Dan Parent-Smith from Cameron Stevenson and Madison Foley. Then it is Luke Scharf in front of Alex Doddington, Fred Lubin, and I was going to say Lapsley in front of Maxim, but Maxim has now gone 5th fastest on a 60.95, and the qualifying record to beat in Junior Rotax is that of Harrison Collins, who did a 59.35 earlier in the season. He's not here for this one, having put in a stellar effort last week here at PFI in the British Championships. But he is here, my apologies. Harrison Collins at the top spot. I'm clearly never had my bacon sandwich this morning. That's why I'm not firing on full cylinders. Will Walker now goes fastest of all on a 60.19. Over the line goes the 41 of Cameron Stevenson. Some of the big hitters are coming through again. But it's William Walker for the KR Sports Squad that's now on the top, in front of Hugh Lawrenson, Matty Hingley and Harrison Collins. Then Oscar Houle and Dan Ginchard, who's gone fastest of all in the first sector, by the way. So Ginchard could be on a run for pole position on the RS kart. Then Steadman in front of Dougie Bolger. Ben Maxim now 9th in front of Luke Scharf. Then Ben Casey and Dan Parent-Smith. Vallance, Armstrong, Knox, Egby, Foley, Doddington, Winter, Stevenson, Lubin and Lapsley. All 22 of them as they battle for pole position. So with no Hunter, as far as Hingley is concerned, just keep it calm, keep it cool, and bring home some good points, and the title is yours, my friend. But it is going to be an interesting battle behind them, nevertheless, as several drivers will battle for supremacy. The racing continues as we have racers pushing in their fast times. Will Egby now goes fastest with a personal best in the first sector and fastest of all in the second and third sectors. So Will Egby is fastest from Harrison Collins and Dan Ginchard. Then Jack Steadman, Will Walker and Ben Casey, Bolger, Scharf, Lawrenson and Winter. Then Armstrong and Hingley, Vallance and Houle from Parent-Smith and Foley, Maxim, Knox, Doddington, Stevenson, Lubin and Lapsley. So Dan Ginchard has fallen back into one of the other positions in the train as he tries to find a little bit more speed. Tags onto the back of Douglas Bolger as the 12. That is the 12 of Dan Armstrong slots into the middle of the train as well as he tries to find a little bit more time. 59.80 is the current pole time, although the fastest Junior Max lap from qualifying has come from Harrison Collins earlier in the season with a 59.35. Can we get into the 59.3s? So far so good as they blast down the main straight, hoping for a better time. No improvements though from this group at the moment, as they all go into their final flying lap. They are all going to start their last lap now this time, as Egby is your pole sitter from Casey and Collins, then Ginchard in 4th from Steadman and Walker. Douglas Bolger is currently 7th, although he's tagged onto the back of the 45 of Will Walker. No, sorry, that is the 54, his teammate Ben Casey in the KR Sport. So let's see how it flows. The checkered flag is coming out ready to fly over the gantry to welcome the drivers home at the end of qualifying, but Will Egby is going for pole position. Matty Hingley, fastest of all in the first sector, despite being down in 12th at the moment. So Hingley, championship contender and possible champion if he has a clean run tomorrow, is going to get a good lap here if he keeps it together. Over the line, the checkered flag flies, and now we'll see who's going to get pole position in Junior Rotax. Ginchard goes fastest of all in front of Hingley. A 59.64 from Ginchard. Dan Ginchard's got the job done in the final qualifying lap in front of Matty Hingley. That's a safe bet for the Ultimate R driver. Steadman is 3rd, Egby is 4th, and Dougie Bolger 5th in front of Ben Casey and Harrison Collins. And with a 59.64, that is the pole time then sorted for Dan Ginchard. Absolutely brilliant run, and he's absolutely elated with it. He saw the time as he went through. So once again, Dan Ginchard, the qualifying specialist, has popped it on pole position here in the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series. He will see the times on the board. Dan Ginchard, boom, fastest. Good job. Matty Hingley second, despite being fastest of all in the first sector. Jack Steadman is third, and he was fastest of all in the second sector. But it was the consistent pole lap of Ginchard and being fastest of all in the final sector that got him pole. Ginchard, Hingley, Steadman is the top three from Egby, Bolger and Casely. Then Harrison Collins and John Knox. Will Walker and Luke Schaff round out the top 10 from James Winter and Oscar Hoole. Hugh Lawrenson and Joshua Valance. Dan Parent-Smith and Dan Armstrong from Ben Maxim and Madison Foley. Then Alex Doddington, Cameron Stevenson, Scott Lapsley and Frederick Lubin. The gap, 1.9 all the way down to the back. It's going to be a fantastic set of races tomorrow with plenty at stake. So now the drivers are heading out onto the circuit in Mini X30 for their timed qualifying session. 6 more minutes on the board, and again a title showdown to decide in Mini X30 with a brilliant battle ahead of us between Oliver Greenall and Luke Watts. So Oliver Greenall currently has a 17 points advantage over Kato Motorsports' Luke Watts. So Greenall needs 14th or better to be champion. And that will be sealing the deal, essentially. If Watts were to win the race, then Greenall would only need a 14th place finish to seal the title. And that comes off the back of 3 victories in the final. Watts has been absolutely relentless over the course of this Mini X30 season. And all he needs to do, essentially, is do the same job again, Oliver Greenall. But it is obviously going to be hard, and there are several drivers out there who are going to make life very difficult indeed for Oliver Greenall. So here is the field for Mini X30 this weekend. Evan Brown, Alfie Rigby, Mike I. Singh, Jessica Edgar, Jack Cox, Brendan Templeton, Tom Bohr, Luke Watts, Milo Pilfold, Gabriel Stilp, Aidan Lynn, Hayden Chance, Matthew Hyde, Oliver Greenall, Alexander Renner, Dane Tucker, Theo Makouris, Anthony Sofronio, JJ Russell, Marcus Luzio, Ben Price, Jusso Laukkanen, Luis Gardner, Jason McCleary, Alfie Cottier and Dan Bolton. Away they come over the start-finish line. And it's the first ones out onto the circuit who, of course, are setting the initial pace. But the fastest lap of the entire season from Mini X30 has actually come from race trim, not practice. Although in the earlier timed free practice, we did get a personal best. We got a Mini X30 practice record for the Winter Series, and that was set by Theo Makouris earlier in the day of a 60.07 dead. So if that is anything to go by, we may well get another course record in the qualifying. That is currently held by Oliver Greenall, who has done a 60.51 over the course of the early part of the season. So a 60.51 is the ultimate qualifying record from this class in the previous 3 meetings. So let's see what happens. Thus far, it's good news for Luke Watts. His first initial lap puts him top spot. Jason McCleary second from Dan Bolton and Alex Renner. And now they come through again. Dan Bolton now goes to the top on a 102.61. Dan Bolton running very well in this particular mould. Sofronio second. McCleary is third in front of Gabriel Stilp and Price. Brown goes up to fourth, so Evan Brown for ST Racing up in the top 6. And now it's starting to jostle again. JJ Russell, in the spirit of Senna Kart, goes up into the top 6 himself now. So the drivers continue to battle, and they will come through the final corner and down the main straight and over the line once again. The 24 comes through. That's Brandon Templeton for Ambition Motorsport. And he is in 15th place now as a result of that flying lap. But here comes the pack. Makouris goes to the top, a 102.09. We expected him to be there, but Greenall now second, half a second back nearly. Edgar goes second. Good work from Jessica Edgar. She's put in a great run there. Second position thus far, and she's one to watch actually in this class. She is very competitive these days. Got a victory in the final last year in PFI's first round of the British Championship. But now she wants to do it all the time rather than just here and there. But Jason McCleary goes fastest of all, does a 62.02. Then it's Makouris, Sofronio, Bolton and Price. Evan Brown goes 4th fastest again. But Sam Pollitt Racing's man, Jason McCleary, is currently the fastest man. As quick in the real world as he is in the virtual world, of course, was one of the contenders in the virtual Super 1 series last year as a sim racer, but is doing very well indeed in the actual world of karting as well. Across the line, Brandon Templeton improves his time, but barely improves his position. Luke Watts has got a lot of time to find, and finds it. Pole position. 61.10 with 2 minutes on the clock. Greenall a whisker slower, but Edgar's faster of 61.02. So a 61.02 for Jess Edgar. She's fastest of all in the second sector and personal bests in 1 and 3. And that's enough to put her at the top. Watts is second. Greenall third from Makuris. Alex Renner. Then McCleary and Luzio. Bolton comes up. McCleary goes up to P4. A very competitive top 10. A little over a second covering them all. Jess Edgar in first. Watts in second. Greenall third. McCleary fourth. Up to fifth has come Theo Makuris from Evan Brown and Jack Cox. Then it's JJ Russell who pops up to eighth in front of Dan Bolton and Gabriel Stilp. Sofronio, Price, Alex Renner and Marcus Luzio, who a week ago grabbed his first ever podium in Europe. Fantastic effort. So let's see what happens as the drivers come through over the line. And he won that podium, of course, in Junior X30 in Europe rather than Mini X30 here in Great Britain. Watts goes fastest of all. And he's got a 60.90. Now we're seriously looking at a pole position time. A 60.62 now from Jess Edgar. We are seriously flirting with the best time from the qualifying sessions in 2019's Winter Series now. A 60.51 is the time to beat for all of them. That was Oliver Greenall's time from earlier in the season. But Edgar is fastest of all from Watts, Rigby, and now Antonis Sofronio. Sofronio goes fourth. A good lap there from Antonis Sofronio. Oliver Greenall is only fifth at the moment from Matthew Hyde and Gabriel Stilp. Then Jason McCleary and Dan Bolton. Makuris was 10th. Now Jack Cox goes up to 9th and displaces Makuris to 11th in front of Marcus Luzio, Evan Brown and JJ Russell. Then Singh, Tucker, Line, Price, Chance, Renner, Cottier, Tom Bohr, then Lewis Gardner, Milo Pilfold, Juuso Laukkanen and Brandon Templeton. And we're in the final stages. The time ticks down to 0 now, and the checkered flag will fly. And the man that crosses the line first is the 24, as Theo Makuris goes fastest of all with a 60.24. Smashes the previous best. Theo Makuris has done an amazing lap. Absolutely terrific. Greenall comes up to second. Edgar to third. Rigby fourth from Watson Hyde. But Theo Makuris has smashed the previous qualifying record by over a quarter of a second. Absolutely terrific from Theo Makuris. A 60.24 assures him in pole position for tomorrow's first races of the day. Absolutely fantastic. Makuris then matches the sort of pace we saw from him in practice earlier and gets a brilliant lap in qualifying to go fastest. Second is Oliver Greenall from Jessica Edgar and Alfie Rigby. Luke Watts is fifth. Then Jack Cox and Evan Brown from Antonis Sofronio and Matthew Hyde. And then in the top 10 with them is Alexander Renner. Dan Bolton goes 11th from Dane Tucker and Gabriel Stilp. Then Aidan Line and Ben Price. Marcus Luzio and Jason McCleary. Mackay Singh and JJ Russell from Hayden Chance, Juuso Laukkanen, Alfie Cottier, Lewis Gardner, Milo Pilfold, Tom Bohr and Brandon Templeton. But Theo Makuris gets a 60.24 lap. That's absolutely stellar from the Mini X30 ace. A really good lap time there. Absolutely fantastic. And in terms of the pace of the Mini X30, well, that is under 2 seconds now off the pace of the Junior X30, a lap that Oliver Behrman set earlier in the season. A really, really good effort there from the Mini X30s, but it's Makuris, Greenall, Edgar, Rigby and Watts at the sharp end of the field. And with a title fight on the line and Greenall hoping to keep his win record at 100%, that's going to be very exciting indeed. So, time to get the Minimax and Junior TKMs out on circuit. And of course, with these two combining a grid, it's going to be 2 title fights. Now, there's not many Minimaxes this time. There's only 5 of them, but 4 of them are in the bid for the championship, would you believe? So, of the Minimax brigade, we've got Harley Horton, Ryan Willis, Archie Kitching and Tristan Rennie, as well as Sam Gornall. And only Harley Horton is not in the mix for the title fight. So, Willis, Kitching, Rennie and Gornall will fight for Minimax honours. In Junior TKM, the story is all about Connor Kearney versus Charles Gaillard for the title, with Alex Roberts in the mix as well. Dominic Roberts is also in the field from Harry Yardley Rose, Dale Whittaker, Charlie Webb, Harry Wainwright, Jack Saunders and Jim Barty, Scott Smith, Jensen Davis, Jack Nicholson, Morgan Kidd, Josh Raystrick, Harvey Cole and Zach Taylor. Very competitive Junior TKM grid for this time. And again, that will be down to the fact, no doubt, that in 3 weeks' time they start their Motorsport UK campaign right here for the British Kart Championships. so they'll want some extra track time in preparation for it. So for Minimax, it's going to be quite an exciting battle for the title. Just to give you an idea of how it works out in Minimax, Sam Gornall currently has 171 points in the title fight. That is 2 more than Ryan Willis. 3 additional back is Archie Kitching, and a further 1 back is Tristan Rennie. So incredibly, there are only 5 drivers in the Minimaxes, would you believe? So 5 Minimaxes in the ranks, and then of course we are going to have a fairly big grid of Junior TKM. The next time qualifying session after this one is going to be Senior Rotax Maxim 177, and then it will be TKM Extreme after that. So Tristan Rennie is currently on the top spot in both classes, if you like. He is the fastest in the Minimaxes and fastest overall on a 107.33. We're going to have to keep tight scrutiny on the Minimaxes this weekend, because obviously the Virtual Championship doesn't quite work when you've got 2 classes out there together. So we'll have to keep an eye on it as the weekend progresses. But the Minimaxes are going to be a very close battle for the title. While we're talking about the title battles, we should also point out that there's only 7 points in it between the Junior TKM pair of Connor Kearney and Charles Gaillard. So Kearney would need 4th or better to be champion if Charles Gaillard were to pick up the victory in the season finale tomorrow. 37 races to get to that point, of course, so all of the heats tomorrow will give us an indication as to where we're going with it. But it's all very tight. It's all very close indeed, and that's the great thing about this battle. So 3 minutes to go in time qualifying. Tristan Rennie pole position at the moment from Jack Saunders and Connor Kearney. So 2 separate classes at the sharp end. So Rennie essentially is looking at being pole position in Minimax. Jack Saunders is looking at being pole position in Junior TKM. But there's still a long way to go. The ultimate fastest lap from Minimax so far this season in qualifying is that of Sam Gornall, who did a 1 minute 1.67, which is comparable actually to the best time we've seen all season from Junior TKM, which was Charlie Webb, who did a 61.86 earlier in the season. And both of those drivers are in the field today, so they have a chance to beat their best. Jack Nicholson now goes fastest of all in the Junior TKM brigade and overall. That is a 62.24 he's set. 0.04 of a second quicker than Kearney and Webb. Then Harvey Cole, Morgan Kidd, Dominic Roberts and Harry Wainwright. Up to 4th now overall. It's the Minimax brigade as Tristan Rennie goes fastest. And then Archie Kitching goes fastest of all on a 61.79 already. Goodness me, Archie Kitching means business here in Minimax. And that is only 0.12 off the best qualifying time we have seen this season. So clearly the pace is very much there with the Minimax contingent. But then, of course, you have to remember that they've had some shocking form in terms of the weather from earlier sessions. Archie Kitching set a qualifying record earlier on of a 1 minute 1 point. Now, what was it? My apologies. It was a 1:01.41 that he set earlier on, Archie Kitching, and that remains the fastest practice time we are going to see from the season. But in terms of the qualifying time, the time to beat is a 1:01.67. But if Kitching could get in the 1:01.4s in practice, there is every chance he could get to that sort of tally in the practice sessions. Now, in Junior TKM, the fastest time earlier was Scott Smith, and he got a new record as well, a 1:01.37. So Scott Smith was the fastest from the earlier practice session. So let's see what happens in the course of timed qualifying. Well, already we're in the 1:01s for the Minimaxes, and the Junior TKMs are in the 1:02s. So we're not far off the ultimate pace from qualifying so far this season. Here they come, over the line once again. Led in unison is the 32. Up at the sharp end, Jack Saunders. Jack Nicholson is the fastest of them all in Junior TKM. No, he is not, because Scott Smith goes faster with Dale Whittaker on his tail, and then Jim Barty for Flex gets up into position. Archie Kitching goes fastest of all in the Coles Racing Kart once again, a 1:01.62. Is that exactly the same time? No, he's made a slight improvement. In fact, he has gone fastest of all of the season in qualifying. He has beaten Gornall's time by 0.05 of a second. So it looks like it's going to be Archie Kitching with a checkered flag is flying out on circuit. The Junior TKMs are going to be flying fast as well. Their previous best qualifying time is a 1:01.86. They are not quite eclipsing that yet, but Scott Smith is very close to it on a 1:02.01. But it's Kitching from Rennie and Gornall at the moment in this qualifying session for Minimax. Fastest of the junior TKMs is set to be Scott Smith, but the checkered flag flies now. Are we going to see a change? Across the line, Connor Kearney cannot compete at that level. He's not quite able to get up to the top spot. Scott Smith does a 1:01.58. Smashes the previous qualifying pace in a junior TKM for this season. So Scott Smith does it again. He gets the pole position in junior TKM. A very good run from Scott Smith in front of Jim Barty and Dale Whittaker, Jack Nicholson, Connor Kearney, Jack Saunders, Charlie Webb and Harry Wainwright. What about the Minimaxes? It's going to be tied to the top, but I think Kitching might just have it from Tristan Rennie and Sam Gornall. No, Gornall's beat Rennie. So Gornall goes up into second position in the class, but pole position does go the way of Archie Kitching with a 1:01.22. That's amazing. Smashes the previous best time. So Archie Kitching is the king of qualifying here today for Minimax. He's done a great job with a new qualifying record for the season in 2019's Winter Series of a 1:01.22. Scott Smith is second overall and the fastest of the junior TKMs. Then it's Sam Gornall and Tristan Rennie for Minimax, and then a string of junior TKMs. Jim Barty and Dale Whittaker, Jack Nicholson and Connor Kearney from Jack Saunders and Charlie Webb. Then it is Harley Horton in the Minimax, Harry Wainwright in the junior TKM, Ryan Willis having a shocking qualifying in his Minimax, and then the rest of the field are all junior TKMs, namely Harvey Cole, Morgan Kidd, Harry Yardley Rose, Dominic Roberts, Zach Taylor, Alex Roberts, Josh Raystrick, Jensen Davis, and rather dramatically the championship contender in junior TKM, Charles Gaillard, having all sorts of mechanical problems, only able to get a 1:04.09 out of the kart in qualifying. So he will start his title battle from the back of the grid in junior TKM. Very dramatic, but that's exactly the way we like things in motorsport, and especially how we are going to have it in this particular battle. Now, we've had a spin on the way to the first corner up at the Litchfield Bridge, so that's not the best of forms as the drivers get themselves out on circuit ready for the Senior Rotax Max and 177 qualifying sessions. So there's only a handful of the 177s out there. Most of them are Senior Rotax. And of the Senior Rotax Brigade, we have James Lowther, Mackenzie Morris, Jodie Fox, Louis Fleet, George Smith, James Lingard, Sam Harrison, Joseph Hunt, David Sutton, Jason Lockwood, George Holbrook, Stuart Pollock, Travis Coyne, Thomas Ikin, Lewis Smith, and Matthew Beaumont. And then of the 177s Brigade, we'll have John Scott and Tim Darlow, Joe Bleakley and Mark Wingard, Sean Smith, Adam Sadler, and Ross Meakin. Now, in Senior Rotax, we've got a fairly reasonable battle on our hands, or at least we did have. Reese Hunter and Ben Burgess were meant to be battling away for the title, but no Kai Hunter almost automatically means we have no Reese Hunter, which we don't. So it means that effectively the club title ends up going the way of Ben Burgess, who was second in the points going into this one. So Ben Burgess would be the man to take on the mantle of club champion, although I notice as well I can't see Ben Burgess's name in the fleet. So potentially for Senior Rotax, we're going to have a completely different champion. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll focus on the qualifying for the moment, but certainly in Rotax 177, there's only 6 points between Adam Sadler and Joe Bleakley. So if Joe Bleakley were to win tomorrow, then Adam Sadler would need to be at least P3 to wrap up the championship. So that's got to be Sadler's target this weekend. It's very tight at the top of Rotax 177. So the qualifying pace has already started then at the sharp end. The best Rotax 177 lap of the season in qualifying is Luke Oliver on a 58.68. But with him not being here, then it's pretty much up for grabs to get a record. In the Senior Rotax, the best lap of the season so far is Reese Hunter's time of a 57.39. But again, not being here, that record is essentially up for grabs. So some of the drivers are already into the 58s for their qualifying laps, and that makes things pretty competitive up at the sharp end. So we're going to see some really competitive times from them once more as they battle away for supremacy. This is going to be very tight, actually. The driver's wanting to get a really good qualifying lap in. Sam Harrison sets the pace at the moment on a 58.33. So he is currently the top spot from David Sutton for the Team Avago, and that is 0.11 of a deficit, although he was fastest of all initially in the first sector, only to be displaced by James Lingard. But Bleakley and Sadler are the two fastest drivers in 177. They are bidding and battling for pole position in the 177 qualifying session. Both classes out on track at the same time this weekend, of course. The only person who hasn't got out onto the circuit, notably, is Ross Meakin, who, for some unknown reason, has not brought his 177 out onto the circuit. But Sam Harrison's lap time is now 58.33. David Sutton goes faster, though, on a 57.64. A very good lap indeed there from David Sutton. Is that a new fastest for 177 for Rotax, sorry? Is that a new fastest for Senior Max? Not quite. Reese Hunter still has a 57.3 from earlier in the season, but David Sutton pops straight in with a 57.64 in front of George Holbrook, Sam Harrison, Jason Lockwood and Joe Hunt. Then it's James Lingard and James Lowther, George Smith and Travis Coyne. Joe Bleakley goes fastest of all in Rotax 177, by the way. He's just done a 58.59, which compares as the best time of the season for Rotax 177. So, that is a new personal best of the season in Rotax 177 from Joe Bleakley, who steals the qualifying record away from the championship leader, Reese Hunter. Not the Reese Hunter, my apologies. Steals it away from Luke Oliver, who was battling for the title in the early stages of the season. But George Holbrook goes fastest of all. 57.37. A 57.37. That is the new fastest of the season. So George Holbrook goes to the top. A very nice run indeed there. Not everybody's been able to go fastest of all for the season, but George Holbrook has. So a really good effort there from George Holbrook as he gets a new fastest lap of the season in Senior Max. Very good work there as he continues to push for pole position. So anybody that goes faster than him essentially will be the fastest of the season. So there's a lot at stake here. Predominantly pride-based, of course, but everybody wants to go for it. So most of the classes have had a improvement from the previous rounds, but George Holbrook is pole position in the Rotax. In the senior Rotax, I should say. In 177, it's still Joe Bleakley on a 58.54. That is likely to be the pole lap, though. I can't see him making... Oh, he has made a slight improvement on the 5.9. My apologies, Joe Bleakley. A 58.54 is now the best lap time. And Adam Sadler is desperately trying to catch him, but with 5 seconds left on the board, this is going to be the final flying lap for all of them out there. As the checkered flag flies on the top of the gantry, and we'll see who grabs pole. Will it be George Holbrook, who holds on in senior Rotax? Bleakley and Sadler finish at that, but a 58.50 is what Bleakley can pull out of the bag. So he improves by 0.04 of a second in the final tour. A 58.50 for Joe Bleakley. That's pole position in Rotax 177. Meanwhile, the battle continues further back in senior Rotax. George Holbrook is still top dog, but he's got Lockwood, Sutton and Lowther snapping at his heels within 0.3 of a second of him. Here they come out of the final turn. Is Holbrook going to retain the place? He is not! David Sutton goes faster. David Sutton pops up on a 57.36 by 1/100th of a second. Fantastic from David Sutton. He saved his best for last with a 57.36. Just 1/100th of a second quicker from David Sutton, the fastest qualifier of the season then in the Winter Series of Senior Rotax. David Sutton, pole position from George Holbrook and Jason Lockwood. Then James Lingard and James Lowther. Joe Hunt is 6th from George Smith, Sam Harrison and Travis Coyne. Then it's the two protagonists in Rotax 177. Joe Bleakley ahead of Adam Sadler. Then Lewis Smith, Stuart Pollock and Louis Fleet from Senior Rotax ahead of Thomas Aiken and Jody Fox. Then 177-man Sean Smith ahead of Mackenzie Morris of Rotax Senior. And then it is two more of the 177s. Tim Darlow ahead of John Scott. The last of the Senior Rotax is Matthew Beaumont. And then the final two Rotax 177s are Mark Wingad and the man who didn't set a time in the end, Ross Meakin. But David Sutton and Joe Bleakley set qualifying records on their way to pole position. And now we come to the final timed qualifying of the day, and that is TKM Extreme, their first visit to the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series. So there's no title fight. It is literally just a one-weekend battle royale to see who is the best in the winter for TKM Extreme. And the drivers are Joe Fowler, Adam Sparrow, Joe Reeve-Smith, Sam Fowler, Kyle Sproat, Louis Bevan, Spencer Stevenson, Harry Moore, Jack Godden, Michael Cornell, Megan Lawson, Adam Jones, Max Goldsmith and Dan McKeown, Addison Chilcott, Kai Springfield and Lewis Wadley. So the TKM Extremes, again, obviously preparing for their start to the British Kart Championships from Motorsport UK, which will take place here in 3 weeks' time for TKM Extreme. So they're getting their training in by racing in this Winter Series event. Looks as though the Jade boys are trying to get some good track space as they get themselves into a good position. I note, though, that Sam Fowler has again not come out onto the circuit. I wonder if he has had an issue earlier in the day or whether he was not able to attend from earlier on. So it's going to be an interesting, although rather forlorn weekend for him if he's going to have to either A, sit at home or start from the back of the grid. Megan Lawson sets the initial pace, so Megan is fastest and she is ahead of Spencer Stevenson and Joe Fowler. This will be an interesting one for Spencer Stevenson, of course, as he moves forward from junior last year into senior this year. Joe Fowler is the reigning champion from the 2018 British season. Joe Fowler in front of Louis Bevan and Carl Sproat, Jack Godden and Anderson Chilcott, Adam Jones and Guy Springfield, Max Goldsmith and Joe Reeve-Smith is the order at the moment. So a really tight battle at the sharp end of the field, but Megan Lawson sets the fastest second sector of the entire session until the rest of the field come through. Fastest of all, by the way, in Sector 1 on this flying lap is going to be Anderson Chilcott. So Anderson Chilcott is currently on the pace for Jade as they come out of the final corner and down the main straight. 3 minutes 40 on the clock as across the line goes Megan Lawson and improves to a 1:03.84. But immediately quicker goes Stevenson and Kyle Sproat just whisker in front of Louis Bevan. Max Goldsmith goes fastest of all, though, on a 1:01.57. So not a bad start to proceedings for Max Goldsmith as he continues to run in progression. So Max Goldsmith running a very good run at the moment in front of Fowler and Stevenson, Sproat and Cornell, Harry Moore and Dan McKeown, Anderson Chilcott, Joe Reeve-Smith, and up into the top 10. Sam Fowler's transponder's fixed. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, and there's been a nudge into a spin on the qualifying lap. So somebody has gone around. It looks like somebody missed their braking point and has tipped. Is that Max Goldsmith, the pole position sitter, into a spin? Yeah, shaking his head in disbelief. Max Goldsmith, effectively, I think the driver behind him just nudged him into a spin on his qualifying run. Well, I've not seen that sort of thing for a long time. But Goldsmith is now the top from Joe Fowler and Spencer Stevenson, Carl Sproat and Michael Cornell, Harry Moore, Sam Fowler. And now the times are coming in again as Carl Sproat goes to the top now from Dan McKeown. So Dan McKeown in behind Carl Sproat. Harry Moore goes third for Litchfield. So at the moment, it's Litchfield, Jade Racing, Litchfield, Jade Racing in the top 4. Because it's Carl Sproat ahead of Dan McKeown and Harry Moore in front of Max Goldsmith. Then the reigning champion Joe Fowler in front of Spencer Stevenson and Michael Cornell, Louis Bevan and Sam Fowler, Megan Lawson and Jack Godden, Anderson Chilcott, Joe Reeve-Smith, Kai Springfield, Lewis Wadley, Adam Sparrow way down in 16th, and Adam Jones. So that's the order at the present moment, but there are still 2 minutes of time left to run. And that will finish us off for the day here at PF International as we prepare for the final round of the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series 2019 with some absolutely sensational battles to come tomorrow. 37 races which will kick off from 8:15 local time in the morning. So make sure that you set your alarm and get up bright and early and join us all the way through the day. So Dan McKeown now goes fastest on a 60.85. Joe Fowler goes second now from Moore, and there's Adam Sparrow, 4th position on the Talco Works kart. Sproat is 5th from Wadley. Then it is Goldsmith in front of Cornell and Godden. Then Stevenson and Lawson. Springfield, Bevan, Chilcott, Reeve-Smith, Sam Fowler all the way down in 16th at the moment. And then it is Adam Jones. So I think Fowler's had some kind of issue with his transponder. That's why he's not been showing up on the times for a lot of it. Joe Fowler's trying to fall himself back into position to work with his teammates for one final bid to get pole position. Spencer Stevenson, I think, is doing likewise on the Talco chassis as he tries to get himself into position. But with a fair few seconds left on the times, everybody's going to get one final qualifying lap in after this one. But here across the line goes the 36 of Megan Lawson, who is still trying to scratch at the top 10. And up into that top 10 goes Louis Bevan, the Flex Motorsport driver on a 61.35. Adam Jones pops up into the top 10. Dan McCown gets an improvement, a 1.85. 1 minute, 0.85 for Dan McCown in pole position at the moment from Joe Fowler, Harry Moore and Adam Sparrow. And there's a warning flag going out. Now that's a problem. That's the number 7 of Kyle Sproat. I don't know whether that's the Max Goldsmith incident or something else entirely. But certainly that's a warning flag in qualifying, which you'd never like to see. But the battle is going to be tight to the finish. The checkered flag is out and ready to fly over the start-finish gantry for the last time today. But Dan McCown is currently looking at pole position. Can he be beaten by Joe Fowler or Harry Moore? Up at the sharp end of qualifying, it is tight between those two. 0.22 of a second. It's very close indeed. As they come off the final turn, it's going to be Megan Lawson who crosses the line first to get the checkered flag. She'll try and push for the top 10. Has she made it? Not this time. Rest of the field coming through to cross the line. Louis Bevan can only be a best of 7th, but here comes the train of drivers. Is there going to be a change for pole? McCown holds it for the moment in front of Fowler. Reeve-Smith goes 5th, but there's no change at the top. McCown is pole from Joe Fowler in 2nd by 0.05. He improves his time, but not his position. Harry Moore is 3rd from Adam Sparrow. Joe Reeve-Smith is 5th ahead of Carl Sproat in the end. From Anderson Chilcott, Max Goldsmith, Michael Cornell and Louis Bevan in the top 10. From Lewis Wadley, Jack Godden, Adam Jones and Spencer Stevenson. And then Kai Springfield, Megan Lawson and Sam Fowler at the back of the field. Well, this is going to be a very exciting days of action. Tomorrow, there will be an amazing fight with 37 races to decide 10 champions in the Trent Valley Kart Club Winter Series 2019. We hope you've enjoyed the qualifying session here from PF International in Lincolnshire. We're back on the air tomorrow and here trackside, of course, at 8:15 tomorrow on Downforce Radio, broadcasting all of the coverage as we go. So you can listen back to it if you're trackside after the event, or you can, of course, sit in the stands and keep yourself warm. There's plenty of racing and 10 champions to crown tomorrow across 37 races and across 11 classes. It's going to be absolutely sensational. I'm Jake Sanson. We'll be back again in action tomorrow at 8:15, bright and early. Make sure you bring your woolies.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingham and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Jacques Villeneuve. You're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Bruno Senna. You're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Chris Hoy, and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Landon Norris, and you're listening to Downforce Radio.